Welcome back to another episode of the Dynasty Dingers podcast. It is April 15th, tax day. For those of you that have not finished your taxes yet, you've got, if you're on the West Coast, about 7 hours. So you should get on that. We are joined today by Trevor Hooth of Prospects Live and Pitcher List. As we talked about last week, Doc and I have joined Prospects Live and we are slowly integrating in. Before we welcome in Trevor, I want to bring on Doc.
Hey, it's me, Doc. We're on Prospects Live now, which means we are better than you, anyone listening, and at the very least, we're better. Unless you're more popular than me and better at knowing ball or better at podcasting, in which case you're still better than me. But I don't know. It sounds like a cool brand, Prospects Live. It's got a certain panache. No, but really, we're honored to be brought in. We don't know what's going on with this podcast. It's like. Is it going to be PL branded right away? I don't know. Eventually it will. We're all in the same kind of circle. Basically, Scout the Stat Line PL, we're kind of like buddies now without diving into the details. But I have not done my taxes fully, trying to, fire the last couple bucks. I'm just trying to get the government. I'm trying to get what's mine. And that microphone, Trevor Hooth, is it's almost as big as your head. I can't stop staring at it. I want
Sorry,
it.
I'll scoot it. Is this better? Should I talk like this?
It looks like a good mic.
Yeah, we're that's going to be our focus point this year. Joking about April 15th is deductions. So now that we're with Prospects Live and technically Scott the Stat Line, Doc, we've got to get you the biggest microphone possible.
Thank you, sir.
But Trevor, I want to welcome you in, kind of just get to know you a little bit as we again usher ourselves into and getting more familiar with Prospects Live. You were the first individual from the publication that we're going to have on, so we're very excited and thankful to have you on today. But I want to say hello and give you a chance to just tell everybody what you're doing, where you're working, and where they can find you.
Yeah, well, if I'm the first, you're starting at the bottom, which is always a good thing. It's only going to get better from here. No, I do a lot of stuff for a lot of people. I have a cat that's making noise behind me. I've done prospect rankings for Fan Tracks. I'm on the pro side at Prospects Live doing scouting reports during report season, or at least trying my best to. Unfortunately, I'm also in school and trying to work full time, so I have not been as good at that as I should be. However, that's what I do there. And then I'm at Pitcher List. I do couple podcasts over there for them. So I'm just creating content for a lot of different people.
Nice. Are you going to school with the hope of getting into more baseball professionally, or are you keeping your profession and then your secondary profession of fantasy baseball and baseball separate?
Fantasy baseball secondary. I'm actually changing careers. I worked in radio for a while after college, and now I'm going back getting a master's and becoming a teacher. So
Very nice.
I am finishing that up, and I'll officially be a teacher by next school year. So that's baseball secondary, but maybe getting into coaching, and of course, fantasy baseball type stuff is always going to be there.
Doc, how funny is that? The three of us are all probably in the same age range, and we all are also switching careers. You've already done it, Doc, so kudos to you. Doc,
I'm
I have a
actually
number.
60. Is that not obvious?
60. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm 67. So, and then, Doc is just timeless. We don't actually know how old he is.
I'm from the 1800s. Extremely racist. We make some edgy jokes here.
I have a number of questions on our outline. I'm going to kind of have us bounce back and forth with Trevor. I'll go first and then kind of let you take over. Trevor, you mentioned to the listener real quick that you're kind of spread across the industry, but I wanted to ask you, from the scouting approach that you take with Prospects Live, who are you looking at? What are you looking at? And then how do you turn that analysis into the content that you're creating?
I'm looking at baseball players, right? That's first and foremost. I don't know if you want specific names, but
pro level, or are you
pro level? Yeah, absolutely. Do
okay.
I do pro level? I would love to believe I could do college, but that's just a lot on the plate. College is fun. Love watching college, but for the most part, I just stick at pro level. I prefer, whenever I can, to watch A ball, low A, high A, whenever possible. Those are the fun levels for me. I've been around this league a long time, so when I get out to games, usually I'm going to like the Peoria Chiefs or West Michigan Whitecaps. So that Midwest League has always been there, but also I think there's a lot of hidden gems at those levels, and by the time they get moved up, they're less hidden. When they're in Double A, people know that they're good usually. So I kind of like guessing, and I guess low pressure guessing, because if I'm wrong, people are like, well, he didn't make it past high A, so that's nothing. No, I do like guessing, and I think it's really fun to look for certain things and be like, oh, I think that's going to turn into something. My claim to fame is watching one swing from the Dominican Summer League of Junior Caminero and like tweeting in 2018 or whatever, being like, watch out for this dude. Like this, my interest is peaked on this guy, and now he's Junior Caminero.
Yeah, now he's the featuring aspect of a Scott White song, which is crazy. Like, you know, on CBS.
Is that a thing?
You ever heard that one?
I've not.
Yeah. So when you get some free time, go look up Scott White Caminero, and he does a whole full song, like a 2-minute song, like just singing about Junior Caminero. It's real.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Really
They had him sing it live, right,
Yeah.
on air, and in Scott is Scott, and it was pretty fantastic. It's like just watching a movie where you know find joy in some of the smaller pieces. I wanted to bring up some of the negatives then that you may see in A ball, whether it's A or high A. Doc and I have talked often about some of the issues we have with calculating our analysis for stolen bases at those levels, just because as players climb, it seems as though their caught stealing catches up, right? Things start to separate. You start to see the guys that can actually steal bases, and then you start to see the guys that may have had 35 stolen bases at A ball, and you're like, hey, their speed isn't what we thought it was. So is speed something that you have an opinion on? And then secondly, how do you take the approach of pitching to batters? Because my idea was always that pitching at the lower levels was less command, less polish. And so I've always thought, what does that mean for the hitters?
All this is true. Less command, less polish could be any aspect of a game at this level, right? That's why it's development. For stealing, I mean, speed is speed. If you're sitting there with a stopwatch, then you'll be able to see the home to first times. You'll know, okay, maybe they're fast. Maybe they steal off instinct. That's what happens with some guys. They'll probably tend to steal less once the catchers get better and better. I don't have a whole lot to say on speed, but on pitchers, I was a pitcher for my very sad baseball career that ended at Division III college level. But I like pitching. I like watching pitching a lot, I should say. And for me, I'm looking for skills more than anything. You show it to me once, right? Can you throw a back foot breaking ball for a strikeout? How is your fastball playing? Where are you trying to use your fastball? Is it top of the zone? Are you moving it around? What breaking pitches do you go to? If it's 3-2, what kind of pitch are you going to use? All these questions I'm asking myself slowly as the game happens, but you're just looking for, I look for certain things. Obviously the velocity, the break, you can see all of that and you can be like, all right, this guy might have something. But beyond that, how do you sequence your pitches? I mean, I was huge on Reese Olson when he came over from the Brewers to the Tigers, and I'm watching him and everybody's saying it's a terrible fastball. I'm like, that's great. It wasn't a great fastball. It wasn't a great fastball, but he was able to use his pitches really well. And he was able to sequence them really well, both location wise and speed and break, how they play off each other. So I was like, this guy's got something. And I, was a huge fan. I was maybe too big a fan, but I was a huge fan of Reese Olson. I think at one point my comment was there's only two Tigers prospect pitchers at the time. And this was like the Wilmer Flores era of Tigers pitching that have top of the rotation upside. And it was Job and Olson. So that might've been too high, but I do really like Olson still. And I'm just looking again for those skills, those things that they can do that I think translate beyond. They just have really good stuff and maybe don't know where it's going as much in terms of, that polish you're talking about.
Yeah. Doc, being an Olson guy yourself, what do you think of that approach?
First things first, Trevor, what was your put away pitch?
Home run. No, I was a lefty. I topped out at about 72 and I threw mostly curveballs. If you would like, I got I think 2 1/3 was the final total that I actually pitched in games in college. I do have a Baseball Reference page. Somebody sent it to me one time.
Nice.
Dude.
That's all you need. Like that's
so sad.
The craftiest lefty in the whole
2.1 innings and I get a Baseball Reference page. I'll take it.
Yes,
you need to print that out and frame it somewhere just so you always have it in case they go through like an organizational purge on Baseball Reference, because Doc and I don't have that. So but Doc, what'd you think? Is that some of the approaches that you take as well when you're looking at these prospects that Trevor talked about?
I mean, sounds kind of like similar to mine in a way. It's I'm not anyone can read velo, as you said. It's like, and again, statistically, that's great, but what happens after the almost inevitable TJ, or if you're, and what kind of velo is it? My whole world's been flipped upside down lately. I had this idea like, okay, Justin Steele, Drew Thorpe, these guys, maybe they'll be a little bit more durable because they're not just, blasting high velos, and now they're going too. So I get that whole, I got to reshape a bit of my approach here, but because I do like the idea of just, command, pitchability, as you said, how do the pitches play off each other? Sometimes it's just like, it's a mental game, right? I think a lot of people don't understand that part of pitching, and it's how it's how guys like, Wade Miley, or like Michaelis before the last year or two, could go out there and just be. I mean, let's just look at Kyle Gibson having a career. Of course, this is not higher end kind of pitching, but why are these guys valuable? It's because they just have certain abilities to get it done. And so I guess I would turn this around to Trevor. Reese Olson not having the best start to the year. I'm still a believer. I would like to see him put on a little bit of muscle, see if he can get some natural velo that way without having to change his approach too much. But do you think that better times are on the way for Reese Olson?
Yes, because just in my heart, I know that he's better than what he's pitching right now. I do. I don't want to make jokes just about how I like Reese Olson, so he's going to be good. Because I'm wrong a lot, and I lose a lot of fantasy leagues, and so I'm pretty excited to talk about how I do that. But I do think Reese Olson has better times ahead. Um, I'm going to chalk it up to early season. There's a whole lot of early season stuff. It's still early enough where I can just chalk it, say early season. I'm not going to look into it. Things will improve. And I am kind of trying to take advantage of people who are worried about his early season performance. I've tried to get him from Reese White, fellow Prospects Live person in one of our leagues, but he's holding on tight. So we'll see.
You kind of mentioned, and this is our first opportunity to show you, Trevor, how our outline goes so askew each day. You mentioned you're in fantasy leagues. You mentioned, and truthfully, that you don't win all of them, which neither do Doc and I, especially some of our dynasty leagues based off the way we strategize and the way that we're building for more of a domination down the road. But I wanted to ask you, are you playing majority of your leagues dynasty? Are they mixed with redraft? And then what is your approach, and why do you find at times that your approach does fail?
Yeah, I'm mostly dynasty. I think I have one redraft league, and that's new this year. For the most part, I'm just dynasty keeper type leagues, and my approach fails for a very simple reason, and that is that I play fantasy baseball with my heart. If I like a player, I'm going to go get him. If if a guy approaches 30, they're liable to be traded off my roster. I don't know why I'm like this, but I don't win a lot of fantasy leagues that way. I do have one. I'm doing okay, and it's it's the one with three. So I was just talking about 30 team keeper league, and my team's doing pretty well. But no, I'm really good at I feel like giving people advice that I can't follow, because I just want to go get guys that I want to play fantasy baseball with. I want them on my team, and I will give things up. I'll lose trades. I love when somebody says, "Hey, we need a manager. This team's in bad shape," and I can go and rebuild it. That's like my favorite thing to do. And that's why I don't win a lot, because as soon as the team's good, I either am like, all right, I don't think I have time for this league this year, or I'm liable, if it's a free league, to just blow it up again and start over. So it's, I have fun doing it, but I don't win a lot because of that strategy, even though I understand logically the way I do it is not correct.
Well,
Because I'm
and
supposed to win at some point.
Doc, I think at least I share a lot of what Trevor said in a lot of my leagues. There are leagues where I broke away from that strategy that you talked about, Trevor, and I went more with just analytical approach. And those teams are great, but I don't enjoy them. And then that's what I love about fantasy baseball. I think you and I, Doc, are probably in the same amount of leagues, 20, 25, and maybe 4 of them I love. 3 of the 4 I'm horrible in, but it's like, kind of like you said, Trevor, like, I got the guys I like. I'm just going to sit on Jordan Walker for 15 years, and hopefully eventually he'll be a superstar. What do you think of what Trevor was talking about there, Doc?
Yeah, I mean, I actually tell people a lot. There are some moves that are smarter than others objectively, and like at the end of the day, though, I think I got godfathered. Like, this guy was offering I don't even remember what it was, but he wanted Jackson Holliday and Wyatt Langford. And I just love those two players. And it was a 12-team league. And I'm like, nah, man. I want these guys for life. It's my home league. So I'm like, no, you're not taking that from me, because then when Wyatt can stop destroying his obliques and Jackson Holliday can remember how to hit a baseball, it's going to be I'll end up trading even more for them again. I won't be able to get them. Sometimes they'll go to a team, by the way, which will just refuse to move players, and so I want my guys kind of in the same boat. I try to find the guys who, like right now, I actually am in this exact dilemma in my home league, because like my team, I feel like it's really stacked. It is a good team. But as I'm starting to get overloaded with my guys, I'm like, oh, I need to so I'm in the position of wanting to trade Wilyer Abreu and Jonathan Aranda, who actually aren't really my guys, but gosh, they're kind of working out. So I have to balance, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Trade one of them. Don't trade both. Jackson Holliday is not good at second base right now. Maybe we keep Aranda. So use your logic to some extent. I like winning. Winning is fun. So trying to find the balance, I guess, would be the summary of that extremely long rant.
Well, yeah, and balance is key, but it's also, as I think kind of Trevor, you said it, and Doc, we both live off this, got to get our guys too. I watch baseball every single night. I want to watch the guys that I enjoy, and the Arandas are great. And we've known that there's contact ability there for a number of years with his prospect pedigree. But I'm watching a Rays game, I'm not excited about when Aranda comes up. I'm excited when Junior Caminero comes up, right? When Brandon Lowe comes up, and it's like, well, it's home run or nothing here, but we're going to watch and see what happens. So I wanted to really dive in a little bit into high A and low A here with you, Trevor. Just a couple names. I wanted to see what your thoughts were early in the season. It looks as though we have Luis Pena for the Brewers, coming off his impressive DSL last year, coming out of the gates pretty strong, not showing the power still, right? That was a big thing for him that he didn't showcase in the DSL. Speeds there, 10 stolen bases, more walks than Ks. Is this a player that you've been able to see early in the season in the A ball ranks?
I have not, no, but here's what I do know. Good players make themselves known. If you're watching baseball at that level, or any level, but especially at that high A ball level, the good players make themselves known. So even if the power's not there and you think they may develop more power, that's fine, right? This is early on in the development process. So if they have the talent, if they have something there, I'll tell the story of Denzel Clark when he was in high A with the Lansing Lugnuts, and I went and saw him, and he hit an inside the park home run. And I was like, that's cool. He hasn't hit much else other than a pop fly to the warning track that made me audibly gasp, which doesn't happen a whole lot because the sound, it seemed like it was so good. And then I come back the next day and he hits an inside the park home run. It's like he did it twice in a row. And then you watch him in the outfield and he has these amazing routes and reactions. The good players make themselves known. So I can't speak specifically on the player you asked about, unfortunately, but if he's playing like this, then there's something there. And that's always good, right? When you watch a guy, Arjun Namala, I saw him. Wasn't even watching him last year in low A, and 3 times in a row, I think I was watching different players, and I go, "Who's that?" And it was Namala. So I'm sold on Namala. Give me his whiff rates, give me everything. There's something there that I want to be a part of because he's a good baseball player, and he was doing things that seemed above average to me, to my eyes, over a stream. And he did it several times over several games. I'm like, that's got to be something.
It's interesting you say that, and Doc, I want you to jump in here a minute because you've been to a minor league game, and we've talked about that a lot with the Manoah and Skeens matchup last year. But the only minor league game that I've been to here in Vegas was a game that Tyler Soderstrom had been sent back down to the minors. And I had said a number of months ago, which was really impressive to me, was how incredible he was on the field. He was the best baseball player on that field. There were no questions about it. There was a wide gap. And then he goes to the major leagues over the last 2 seasons with his stints, and he's just not good at all. But it always stuck with me that I had saw that game and I had saw the ease that he had to just be the best player on the field. So what you're saying really translates to my experience as well. Kind of seeing them live or seeing them on tape, if you notice that athletic ability or you notice that they are better, that is an immediate, for me, watchdog. Those guys now need to be watched. I think with Namala, right, the K rate for me would have to be something that I'm hoping develops, right? He's young. And then I bring that up because right now Ralphie Velasquez is in high A, even 17% K rate, even 17% walk rate, 4 home runs. This is a guy that I had written off coming into this season, and still 19, 20 years old. So we have the ability for him to take a jump when we've kind of expected that to happen earlier. So Doc, I guess with me bringing up Velasquez, are you still taking A and high A numbers even after a guy has underwhelmed us with his production and still holding out hope or giving it the same kind of microscope you would in the past?
Oh man, I mean, baseball is the game of redemption. I friggin' love it. Like it's the opposite of this. Like, what have you done for me lately? Fantasy football, or I guess basketball kind of idea, right? In basketball, I haven't played it in years. I haven't been following the league as much, but it's like I think first round picks get washed out in a year or two out of the league, and it's like what? And then football, it used to be the quarterback, like a real strong prospect like Patrick Mahomes would go sit on the bench for behind Alex Smith for a year or two or three, or Aaron Rodgers, for example, did that for a while. And then they came out and they were kind of like way better than they would be if they came out raw. But we're such an impatient society, I think, that it's like for me, the older I'm getting, I don't need to go get blackout drunk like college. I made some mistakes, I'll be honest. I'll smoke a cigar though. Just kind of relax. And I'll watch a baseball game. I don't need it to be the crate. In fact, it can be a pitcher's duel. That's even like maybe that's better. I don't know. I'm an old man already. But point is, like, I love the idea of that 30-year-old MLB rookie, or maybe more practically speaking, the 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, the mid to late 20s breakout. You'll see a lot of pitchers come into their own at 28, 29 years old. Alec Burleson just like kind of broke out last year. 25 seems to be a big number. Wilyer Abreu, we're seeing something crazy here. 25 years old, where, I mean, Lewis Analysis with Scout the Stat Line, he's got another Prospects Live import. He came over from the soccer world. He's European. He's like, man, it's so hard because like 18 is like, oh, well, you're not like scoring, like, you're not like a professional already. You're not like crushing it. Because in soccer, I guess it's younger the better. Aranda just hit a home run as we're talking.
Of course he did.
That's amazing. And then, so to wrap this up, I guess I'd say he's like, 25 years old, breaking out. Like, their career is half over in soccer. So that's his words. I don't really follow the game, but anyway, this is a long way of saying, yes, man, a 20-year-old or whatever, anything before 25, it's like, I might write you off, but you can write yourself back in. Robbie Snelling, he's starting to crush it again this year after I think everyone wrote him off last year. There's all kinds of stories like this. And Trevor, I know you opened your mouth at one point, and I wouldn't shut mine. So.
No, I'm laughing. I was just going to say the Laurent about a 30-year-old rookie and all these like 27, 28-year-old rookies, and you said you're from the 1800s. I might believe it. Cigar in your mouth, watching baseball, like it's all lining up. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, he's had a lot of time to really sit on these guys and let it marinate, right? He's really hoping for those late year breakouts. Trevor, before we move into some of the Tigers talk that I'm going to have you preface some of your experience with there, I did want to ask you, so we're going to jump a little bit below the Tigers on the outline, just some guys that you've kept your eye on that you really like, whether it's at A ball, high A, triple A, wherever. You mentioned Clark, who awesome drop there, right? Toolsy player. We're hoping he can put it all together. But who are some of the guys that you really enjoy watching or evaluating that you just have on paper, like Namala, where it's like, this is my guy?
Yeah. I have several. I don't know how long. You just cut me off when you need me to stop talking. But I do on the weekends. I help out with the Daily Sheet on Prospects Live, and Double A is one of the levels that I cover on the weekends. Jack Wenninger from the New York Mets has been fantastic so far this year. He's out of the University of Illinois. He's a 2023 sixth rounder. So far, 10 innings, has a 14.4 K per nine, a 2.7 walk per nine, and a 0.90 ERA. I've read some good things. I've watched it. Obviously he's getting strikeouts. I like the operation. He's low. I think he tops in the mid 90s right now. From what I've read, they believe he's got a couple more ticks in there, which would be good. He's got a nice splitter, and it looks like a slider, but whatever the breaking ball is, looks like it's working pretty well, at least against Double A hitters. So he's been a guy who's been really fun and really successful, and he's maybe way under the radar. I think he was 29th on MLB Pipeline. I haven't heard much else talk about him, but definitely a guy who's been fun so far. If you want to go in the lower levels, Keimer Benitez with the Marlins, I am super excited about. I think he's a lot of fun. He's 19 years old now. He is in low A. Really, really good changeup, and just a guy whose stuff I really like and have very much enjoyed watching highlights of and all that stuff. With the Royals, Blake Walters, he was a higher draft pick, had some expectations, didn't quite go as well. I actually, when he was in high school as a senior, I coached against him. So he played second base in the game that he was supposed to pitch against us, and they wound up not pitching, but he's a great second baseman. Also, I'm pretty sure led our conference in home runs just for fun, and then got drafted as a pitcher. But you know, you hear things, you get to see some things when they're that close to you. And I'm really excited, right? Big slider. He's got a good fastball. His fastball was in the upper 90s, you know, in pre-draft stuff. He normally sits, I think, mid 90s during starts. He's off to a pretty good start this year. I think he's got some good stuff. He's a prep pitcher, so command is something that's going to have to develop over time. That's one of the things I always say about prep pitchers. They are good. They have a lot of really good stuff, and they have a lot of good upside, but they need to learn how to pitch. And sometimes that takes longer for some than others, because when they're pitching against high school bats, even some of the better high school bats, you can get away with throwing hard with a good breaking ball and not having to locate, not having to think about anything else. So taking that next step against pro hitters is something that can take a few years and can be really hard. That's one of the reasons prep pitchers are the riskiest of groups in terms of fantasy baseball, or I guess real life and draft as well. Doc came off mute. I'm waiting.
Oh man, that's very perceptive. It was kind of hand in hand with what I'm talking about. It's beautiful. That's the other side of things. Like, we're so excited. It's high risk, high reward with these prep kids, right? Sometimes they're, and then this is very early on in their development, but sometimes they're Thomas White, sometimes they're Noble Meyer. And it looks, as of right now, like White's going to be on a faster trajectory when it wasn't looking like that at first. Meyer might still be great. And it brings me to these two guys who are looking like they're breakout studs this year. Max Meyer, double Marlins. But Max Meyer, you know, he's learning how to do other things other than just have an amazing slider. It's so far 26 years old, right? Mackenzie Gore, well, you know, he's such a weird profile. He's also, they're very similar age, very like fresh 26-year-olds. They just turned 26, and so that's crazy, right? Like, if you're drafted at 18. Which I believe Gore was. Yeah,
Gore was.
Gore's
Meyer, I believe, was college arm, was he not?
Minnesota,
yeah. So Gore, for example, it's like, that's a crazy ride. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you're sitting on this guy for 8 years, and like, he might, if we're lucky, get that ERA below 4 consistently this year. Seems like he's doing some things right, but this is just like to illustrate. Prep arms, it could go a few different ways, folks. 26
and it could do it a couple times. Talk about Gore. He was can't miss #1 prospect. He was, where did he go? What's wrong with him? And then he, you know, it goes up and down. It really can be in waves for them. Jackson Jobe was the same way. It's just, I gotta talk Tigers. I don't know why I always bring it back.
Let's talk Jobe.
Right, Jobe. When his first year, everybody's like, well, what's wrong with him? He can't get any whiffs. He can't do anything. And then he comes back the next year and they're like, oh, it turns out a 3,000 RPM breaking ball and this data-backed fastball and all that. Oh, it does play when you know how to use it against pro hitters. That's crazy.
Well, it's interesting with you bringing up Jobe, because I think that goes right into what both of you are saying. And this is something that I'm working on the side that, you know, may end up on Prospects Live, may not, depending on how things go. I looked back on the last 10 years of top 100 prospects, and I looked at prep pitchers. Prep pitchers, in comparison to college arms, have let's just say, a wider margin of what you said, up and down. Whereas some of the college arms, college arms come out, but I don't want to say they're all like Paul Skeens or Steven Strasburg. That's not the case. Those are the outliers, right? But they usually have a little bit more success and a little more polish at the major league level when they do come up. Now and then you flip it around, the prep arms normally find that, you know, 26, 27 massive breakout, and in a lot of times become better than the college arms because they had better stuff. As you were saying, both of you, it just takes some time. So I'm trying to like sort through the data and really find out exactly which names fall in which bucket, because I think it's going to help me as a fantasy player better analyze and also be patient. I brought up Job because Job looks okay right now. I know he has elite stuff, but at least I can tell when I'm watching his games right now, the polish isn't there yet, and that's okay. So I wanted to see what you guys thought of Job's performance so far and kind of what you're expecting for the rest of the year.
I know that I want to let Trevor have the runway after this because he's a Tigers fan, but I just think it's so fun that he's not striking anyone out. You want to hear about something about the 1800s? I still use K9 for pitchers. For batters, no. We go to percentages. But for some reason, it's sexier to me to use the walks per 9 and strikeouts per 9. It just looks cooler. He's got a 5.4 strikeout per 9 right now. It's amazing. And it's not like this is completely unforeseen. In that he, his strikeouts were trending down a bit when, AAA. So it'll be interesting. I think it would almost be kind of funny if for a little while he's just this guy who's finds out how to, as you said earlier, be a pitcher, make it work even when your stuff's not overpowering major league hitters. And so early on, that's what it seems to me he's doing. It's almost more impressive to me than just this kid comes up and just has electric stuff, doesn't know how to put it together. But the fact he must be commanding things, I want to watch his next start. I haven't seen his starts, but the fact that he must be just doing enough to get by here at the major league level is impressive to me. Trevor, I'm positive you've seen at least one of his starts, probably all of them. What do you think?
I think his low. I like to say impressive. I'm just thinking like Paul Skeens was impressive, and he was getting strikeouts right away. So, no, I'm not worried about Job, I think is the easiest way to put it. He is looking good. He's not looking lost. He's competing. He's putting together good starts, and I think that's really important. He's 22 years old, and I'm going to make the exact same argument that I made for when he first got into the league. Learning to pitch against major league hitters is different than learning to pitch against pro hitters, which is different than pitching against high school hitters. The major league hitters are really good. I mean, they are insanely good. So there's going to be things that he can learn, change, adapt, and continue to grow upon. And the strikeouts will come. The whiffs are, there was that argument in spring, right? Where are the whiffs? And they'll come. I mean, it may not be this year. So if you're in a redraft league and you have Job, that may not be the best thing. It may be this year. Who knows? But he also is, adding pitches. I think he added a cutter this year, right? He's still developing who he is as a pitcher. And the Tigers' pitching development lately has been fantastic. So there's little reason to worry that Job will figure something out. It just depends on what that is, when it's going to happen. And eventually, with his elite stuff, the whiffs are going to come.
We lost Doc here for a minute, but I'm going to keep going. We'll bring him back in once he's back. I think it's really interesting because I'm seeing what you're seeing with Job, and then I've watched a lot of Paul Skeens throughout his short career, and I would almost say Skeens has a similar issue of trying to learn how to pitch to major league players. More overpowering because he had that overpowering stuff coming out of LSU, but just his start last night, he had opportunities to change his pitch mix and his repertoire in the back half of that start to get Ks in really crucial points. And he just continues to lean on the fastball. And it's like, well, he's 23, 24, right? He's still a young pitcher, a little older than Job. But I think almost all of these guys are still learning to pitch. And each season that they have, they're going to learn a little bit more. They're going to collect more data. And I expect deeper in their careers for them to be better strikeout pitchers. It does help to throw 101 miles an hour, right? In comparison to Reese Olson when he came up, like different mix of what they're trying to do at the major league level. If you're not a Job owner in Dynasty, do you think right now is an okay time to go and target because we haven't seen those put away strikeouts at a high level? Or do you still think it's kind of a poor time because Job coming off a top 5 prospect ranking?
Target if you can target. I mean, that depends on your league, I guess. I try over and over. I'll probably keep trying, but people are going to hang on to him because it's not just that he was, this top pitching prospect, this top 5 pitching prospect. It's known that he has ridiculous stuff, right? So people aren't going to want to sell low on that until they have to. This was me hanging on to Bobby Miller until last week, whenever I traded him. The stuff is there. The stuff is good. But at a certain point, if it goes that direction, then they'll probably sell for pennies on the dollar. But until it gets there, they're going to want to hold until that value goes back up if they decide they want to trade him at all. If you have an impatient owner and they go, hey, I'm trying to get rid of Job, I need something to win now. Yeah, absolutely. Jump at it. Go for it. Because you're looking at a guy who I still believe could be one like a cornerstone type pitcher in your fantasy rotation.
Yeah, I see the same thing you do, right? And when that happens, when that comes to fruition at the major leagues, I think is still to be determined. I think 2026 will be even a better season than 2025, but we're only a handful, not even a handful of starts for his pro career right now. And being patient, I think, is it's really important, as you mentioned. Bobby Miller, great name to drop, a guy that we've seen, right, dominate with his stuff, but also kind of fall back. And I think he's a really interesting one. Who did you drop him for and why?
So this is in my 30-team keeper again, and I have been trying to trade him forever, and I get a deal, and I go, ugh, I don't know. So at the trade deadline, I almost traded him for, I think, Michael Arroyo and a couple other prospects, if I remember correctly. And I was like, maybe he'll come back. Right before the season started, I almost traded him for Grant Taylor, and I was like, he might come back. And then finally, there's the news that he may start a baseball game this week. And I used that like, hey, let's see if anybody wants to go for it. And I wound up trading him just for a pair of relievers. The team is pretty competitive. My pitching is a little rough, to say the least. So I brought in Brian King from Houston and Tony Santillan from Cincinnati just to help bolster the relief corps. But eventually I did just give in and go, you know what, this is going to be good enough. And if he turns out good and I lose the trade, then it won't be the first trade I lost. I traded Chris Bubich for Nelson Rada, who I didn't even keep. So, things happen.
I saw that in the Prospects Live chat. And that's rough. Yeah, that's rough. Doc's loved Bubich for a number of years, right?
Yeah. And I'm not sure if it was covered here or what, but I just disappeared.
You disappeared.
The first time in podcast history.
What?
I stopped talking. It was because I was forcibly shut down. There was no like slow lag before it. It just said, "Nah, dude, you're cut off." And I'm actually gonna have to talk to Trevor after because I want to hear his thoughts about Job, but we're not gonna do a repeat. Don't worry, folks. We're moving on to Bubich. Yeah, man, I saw this guy. Well, here's the deal with Bubich. You want to talk about like home league anecdotes that nobody cares about? Well, here we go. 2022. I was in the finals. My team was amazing. It was stacked. I had all these guys, and they were kind of at the edge, at the end of them being good, like Luke Voigt in his prime. Remember that? Yeah. And but then a couple pitchers like Scherzer and Cole in 2022 kind of just blew it. My studs, Robbie Ray, they were studs at the time, all blew it in the championship week. And this guy was out here streaming Chris Bubich back then when he wasn't even good. No slider, no sweeper. And this guy put on like a game of his lifetime. And I put him on my hate / kill, just kidding FBI list. And, and
I want that to be the full name of it.
yeah. And so, but I guess I respected him a little bit because the next year he came around and I saw him like flashing this new pitch and looking really sharp. And so I bought in. I'm like, oh, nice. I got him everywhere. Like he was going to be the next stud ace. And then he blew his arm out. And he came back last year and he showed, okay, it's not just a flash in the pan. We had some people kind of saying, well, no, he's only going to be good because he's out of the pen. His stuff is maxing up. And I think a lot of people forgot like the April of romance that we had in 2023. And then this year, again, you know what? He hasn't proven big innings yet. That it is the big question mark. But we're seeing a guy who just seems like, yeah, he's doing that thing where it takes a while and there's a breakout happening. I think he could be an SP1 for fantasy purposes this time next year.
Trevor, what do you think? What do you think of Bubich? Do you think this is real? Do you follow Doc's train of thought here, or do you have a little more skepticism about Bubich?
I think that hurts to hear that he could be an SP1 when you trade him for almost nothing. I think I wound up trading Rada for a 10th round pick that I used on Elvin Rodriguez, who is I don't have. He lasted like 3 weeks on my team, if that. So didn't go well.
Is that Brewers, Elvin Rodriguez?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yep. Former Tigers. Oh, okay. Look, my reasoning. I happened to. He was a former Tigers prospect. I liked his stuff then, and Brewers pitching lab. I was like, maybe they'll do something, and it turns out Maybe they did, because his last outing, he went like 4 innings and struck out 7, and they bumped up his breaking ball usage and bumped down his fastball usage, I believe, and it worked out. So maybe they figured something out. It was just after I needed them to. But
The
anyway,
blow up, yeah.
Bubic, I think, yeah, I mean, I believe in it. I want to believe every pitcher's going to be good. I've always loved his changeup was always his big pitch. If I'm remembering Chris Bubic correctly, I watch way too much baseball.
Yeah, so I'm
It's
like a big I'm a big like Middle America like I guess a little bit so. I actually do kind of like the Tigers for similar reasons because I happen to be able to see
Mhm.
them, right? And they're somewhat nearby to Indiana where I'm from. Anyway, I'm not gonna tell you where I live now, but because going on the background of Doc. But Chris Bubic, his big pitch for me right now is that it's the sweeper,
Mhm.
which he seems to have a nice alteration. It's a different pitch, the slider, but both of them are kind of interesting right now. And I'm seeing him drop that sweeper in right in the middle, like middle, and guys are swinging through it. That's where it's landing. Starts outside the zone, and so I think it's kind of almost scary for batters that his and frankly his fastball like combined with this changeup, with the sweeper and the slider, it's like that's an arsenal. I think they're all plus pitches at this point. So
and the
that's
sweeper's new,
where,
right?
yeah.
Sweeper,
Newish.
I want to say Sweeper is new. So his breakdown is 46% four seam
Mhm.
usage, 19% changeup, to which you're kind of saying
Yeah.
was always his, bread and butter. Sweeper
Right.
slider are in at 17, 15, throws a sinker almost never. I heard on a publication this past week, though, they were very surprised. I'm on Baseball Savant right now trying to confirm this, but
Okay.
he didn't really lean on the changeup in his last start. I don't have
Mhm.
confirmation of that, but Doc, it seems like he is leaning more on that sweeper. But yeah, the changeup being probably his best pitch as a prospect, from what I remember as
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
being the pitch that he's not leaning on, that's
Mhm.
dangerous for hitters. Like if
Yeah,
he's really figuring the sweeper out, uh-oh.
man, I usually like to cut people off, but I really tried to cut you off there like 4 times. We're
I
talking.
was
You can tell.
constantly on defense. Did you feel that?
Yeah, I did. It's great. I forgot we had Clegg and Cross on like back to back almost, and I remember like Clegg was like really like let me just run over, and I was like I had to hold myself back, but I remember Cross like held his ground and like wouldn't let it happen, and I was like I gave him credit. I'm like, bro, you're a warrior. You withstood the Doc arrogance. And yeah, so it was anecdotally, yeah. Every time I looked up last week, I was trying to watch my 3-year-old at the same time, but it was slider, sweeper, fastball. I didn't see a lot of changeup.
Okay.
But again, yeah, that was his pitch in the past. It's interesting if you look at. I was just doing a little write up for him on Prospects Live, the greatest website in the world, starting after they hired me. And then he in 2023, look at his usage of the slider. It's like it's like an 83 mile per hour slider back then. That's the way it's classified. I'm not sure when they started classifying sweepers, but it seems like it was a little bit faster than his sweeper now. He didn't have a sweeper back then, as far as Savant's aware. And like all the metrics were kind of like halfway between his current slider and current sweeper. So I think he had this slider pitch to begin with, and then he expanded upon it. I believe it was a real slider back then, but he expanded upon it. Now he has 2 separate pitches, and they're clearly defined. It's like an 86-ish, I think, slider, 82-ish sweeper.
That's odd. It does. It shows back to 2020 curveball, 2021 curveball, 2022 curveball, 2023 first integration of the slider, and now
Mhm.
2024, 2025, that curveball's gone. So it looks
Mm.
like, I think what you're saying, maybe the curveball became the sweeper with a different grip and a different, release, or however he wanted to do it. But I mean, I think that's where you see the breakout, right? Is he just changed his arsenal, kind of as we were talking about some of the younger kids.
And not to backtrack too much, but this is what I was saying about Job, right? Job's 22 years old. He has this ridiculous stuff. He can spin the ball like nobody's business. He has if his fastball was dated back to 1 point, so I'm assuming it still is there. I haven't dug into it too much, but he still can tweak. He still can add. He added the cutter this year, which has already been on Pitching Ninja, so it must be working for him. But he can tweak how he uses things. He can tweak how the pitches play, right? This is what the pitching lab is for, and this is something the Tigers have been pretty good at lately. So no, he's not getting whiffs now. But like Chris Bubic, there could be something that he does that finally unlocks it. He could add something. He could tweak something. And this is how baseball works. Once you've tweaked it and they figure it out, you got to tweak it again. So it
Yep.
should keep this back and forth. It's going to keep happening.
Well, and I saw that directly. I don't know if you guys have watched Jacob deGrom starts this year, but that's what I'm seeing from Jacob deGrom is he's leaning on what he did when he threw 99 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, and it's not working. And that was actually a question that Chris Towers brought up early in the season for CBS podcast, and I laughed at it. I was like, how dare you say that Jacob deGrom may not be the same pitcher a few miles an hour less? He was right. He's not. He's going to have to learn how to pitch with his current arsenal. And that is in the incredible beauty, at least to me, of baseball, to what you said. Like, can you constantly make adjustments and can you do it on the fly in the game when you're on the mound or in the batter's box?
The moment I knew Mason Wynn was going to be a good major leaguer, I was sorry. This is total tangent, but
No, we love Mason Wynn, so please pound the drum.
months after he was drafted, him and Jordan Walker are in Peoria, and they're facing the Cedar Rapids, the high A team. Maybe at that point it was low A. I can't even remember. They changed it recently, but it was the Twins. Whoever it was for the Twins, they had future Tiger legend Sawyer Gibson Long on the mound actually. And one thing that the Twins do or did at that time was have pitchers be older for the level.
Okay.
Yes, they're on general. If they had a pitcher who's going to be pretty old for the level he was at, so Mason Wynn's 18, Sawyer Gibson Long's 22, 23, let's call it, and so Mason Wynn just gets blown away by this big slider that Sawyer Gibson Long has twice in a row, and you can just tell he's not lost, but he's not doing well. Comes back in his third at bat, and all of a sudden there was a change in approach. He wasn't sitting back and waiting. He was attacking the fastball instead of, and it just, you could see something changed in how he approached the pitcher. And right there, I was like, yeah, this guy's going to be a major leaguer. Like if he could do that right now at 18 years old, he's going to figure something out. And it was just amazing to watch because, age does matter, especially if you're an 18-year-old coming out of high school facing a 22-year-old. And, the age to level stuff, I will, however you want to feel about it. I have my own thoughts, but the fact that he was able to adjust and figure something out really says something about his ability to play and what he could do at the professional level.
I love that you bring that up because I see that at the major league level. And I'll bring up Ellie as a great example. Ellie, in some of his first at bats throughout game to game, will be really passive. Will try and work a count. Third at bat will be incredibly aggressive, swing at the first pitch. And a lot of the games that I've watched Ellie, he's constantly making adjustments while the pitcher is making adjustments, and the pitcher always has him dead to rights. So that's the beauty in it, right? It's the chess match of trying to figure out which adjustment is right. Where Mason Wynn, as you talked about, it's like, okay, I've blown you away twice. The clear thing to do is become aggressive and hunt fastball immediately. But yet, it's easy for us to sit back and see that from our couch or from our laptops, but we're not in the batter's box. And yeah, we've been a big Mason Wynn fan. Doc, you still on the Wynn hype train?
Yeah, I was kind of like whatever on him until this offseason, to be honest. And, I think that this is a fantastic buy low window. So I would go after
window.
him.
Sorry.
Yeah, nicely done. And I do think he's probably more of an average batting average league asset than an OBP asset if his profile continues to be the same. This kind of like hit over approach kind of situation. And if he can get to those steals like he was going to, this back spasms thing, honestly, he might not be the same guy or be where he needs to be till halfway through the season. But I am intrigued, Trevor. You said you have some thoughts about age to level. What are some of those thoughts?
I think, how do I put this? If you're young for the level, it matters a lot to me. Like I value that very high. If you are young for the level and succeeding, that's a really, really good thing. If you are old for the level, I don't discount it as much because prospect development is not linear. Anything can happen. And especially for pitchers, like this isn't really going to be a great example because he hasn't turned in anything at the big league level. But Yasser Zulueta, when he was with the Blue Jays, he threw like 7 pitches and tore his ACL or had some injury where he was out for a year. So he got signed. It waited like 2-3 years. And finally he's having a full season. He's rehabbing in low A at the age of 20, 23, 22. Again, don't remember exactly, but he was really old for the level. And I'm like hyping up his stuff because he's throwing 100 with this nasty slider. And I'm like, the stuff is good. The stuff's really good. And it was even a good stream. At the time, Bradenton probably had the best stream, and it was Bradenton's stream. I remember this very clearly. And anytime I tried to bring him up, everybody's like, I don't know. Like, yeah, he struck out 10 in one inning, but he's old for the level. So I don't, is that even good? I'm like, yes, 100 miles an hour with a good slider is still good, even though he's a little bit old now. He's toiling as a Reds reliever in AAA at this point, but it stands to me that if you can see something that plays beyond the level, I don't care what their age is, right? If they're having success and your only basis is, oh yeah, they're hitting 350, but they're old for the level, that might be one thing. But if you're actually, for me, when I watch something, I see a talent, I don't really care if they're old for the level. I see something, and that means something can happen.
Yeah, I like that. And what it brings to mind for me, and Doc, I think you'll like this, is to what you just said. If it's just average, if it's just contact, and there's nothing else, Wade Meckler is the guy that really comes to mind because he dominated every stop of the minor leagues coming out of college. But the only tool was that hit tool, and that jump from high A, double A, triple A to pro ball. We haven't seen that translate, right? Because it's very different to throw 100 miles an hour as a tool and have a 350 average at double A. The correspondence isn't necessarily there at the major league level, right? The tools don't rate out the same. But Trevor, I wanted to circle back and kind of do our Tigers talk with you before we have to cut it off today. Being a Tigers guy, being former, Tigers radio, you've seen a lot of them. There's a number of names from 2024 that have made some big jumps and then it's kind of slid on prospect lists, from Ham to Jung, Brasinho, Clark, of course, Job's in there. But I kind of wanted to lean on Ham, Jung, and Brasinho and kind of just get your thoughts on those guys. And then if there's anybody else within the Tigers organization that you really think needs to be talked about that maybe industry standard isn't talking about, bring those guys up if you can.
Yeah. So Max Clark is really good. I don't know if you guys know that or not. Turns out he can run, hit. He has got power. Can
Who would have ever thought that?
Did you just say there, boy?
I don't know how to reinvent the wheel here. The dude can play baseball.
I scouted Clark in person in high school. I can say that. It was really tough. I went out of my way. I drove a whole 10, 15 minutes down the road, and he was there. My wife was calling me a weirdo. I'm like, no, you have to come with me. Otherwise, maybe it would be more weird. But no,
I drove like an hour and a half to see Xander Meath, so I get it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I told her, I'm like, listen, you could be a superstar, could be the next like Trey Turner. She's like, who? I'm like, what? Anyway, so you're preaching to the choir here on Max Clark. Go on, sir. If I don't stop myself now, it's going to be another half hour of Max.
I mean, Clark. You didn't cut me off, right? The guy can play baseball. I'm not going to say anything no one else has said, and if you look at his social media, he's always working on something. Like, he puts work in.
Got like a 500 OBP right now. It's probably
also an awesome social media account. We've talked about that before. But I love what he's showcasing to his fans. Like that is to me the potential of real big league role model if he can continue the intangibles that he has, because he cares.
So anyway, Max Clark, good. I think we can leave it there. The argument Max Clark or McGonigal, I think, is one that's going to happen. Not one I'm prepared to have at the moment. Jaden Ham, I love Jaden Ham. I do. Big fan. Good ride on his fastball. He's got a good breaker. I know that I think there's some injury concern is just based on, delivery, but he's been great so far this year. He's in Double-A with Erie, and yeah, I was psyched to get him in the second round of the 30-team, available player draft, minor league player draft we had, because I feel like I got something. I feel like I got a steal there, to be honest. And so definitely a Jaden Ham guy. Just going to throw that out there. Brasinho, this is where it falls apart. I really want to like Brasinho. I really do. I'm waiting on the longevity, and I know that's probably a cop-out answer, but to me right now, what you have is a guy who's shown a few things regular season and then had this giant breakout in the AFL, which is nothing. I don't want to frame that like it's nothing. but I'm slow. I'm notoriously slow to breakouts. I didn't get on the Parker Meadows breakout until like 2 years after everyone else did, because I'm like, but look at what he did before. Like, there's got to be another shoe. Turns out there wasn't. So I'm really slow to Briseño. I don't know. They have Lorenzo, so if you're looking for a catcher, I'm more looking at Tehran Lorenzo than I am Josue Briseño. I don't know. Like, I'd love to be proven wrong. If you guys have thoughts on it, please just jump in and tell me how dumb I am. Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last, but I'm still waiting.
So you're not dumb. And I'm going to give you credit for something after the Brasino talk. But for Brasino talk, it's from what I understand and what we're seeing with the numbers so far this year, he's off catcher. He's DH first base. So, which is limiting, but it's also going – I mean, if you're familiar with the catcher position, it's like that's a huge load off of his development.
It is.
He doesn't have to call games, folks. He's not wearing his knees out. As a 6'4", he says 6'4", 200. He's gonna put some more on that frame probably. There's some serious raw power here, and I guess I think you're not completely wrong in wanting to see more during the actual minor league season, because we want to see that like 20 plus home runs, 15 plus home runs, whatever it is, something. Give us something. Show we know you're big, we know you're strong. You got a pretty solid eye so far. We're seeing a 12% walk rate pretty consistently. So far or higher. It's just going to be a matter of stay healthy and put them over the fence. We're waiting to see it, and that's the same kind of deal with Max Clark. Actually, it's like completely different kind of player, but yeah, we know you likely have the ability to do that. In Brasino, though, it's like as a DH first baseman, we really have to see that early on. And I would say, just to depart here and give you credit, you're saying you're late to the game. I would say Jaden Ham, for whatever reason, has no hype, or very little hype compared to look at his numbers. He's not the biggest body, not the biggest frame. But I think that matters to me more with pitching than batters. But I think that you are an early adopter of Jaden Ham. So give yourself some credit.
Yeah, I would say second round in a 30, right? We'll say anyway from, let's just say 30 to 60.
So that includes like available free agent or minor league free agents at the time, plus this most recent first-year player draft class.
Okay. Second round. So he
would have been 33rd overall, because I traded back from my 20th pick to get Mike Arroyo, who I also
actually that seems like really good value. I think, Doc, in a few of our 30s where we had that same format, Ham was, I want to say 20 to 30. Same contexts. Where free agents are available if they weren't picked up, and obviously minor league season, we can't take a guy into say our 30-man salary league, and Ham's in the draft with Christian Campbell. Campbell goes 1, Ham falls to the 20. So I think you got pretty good value there for what potentially could be with your hype on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the first base talk, by the way, you guys touched on it, but I just want to go directly at it. When somebody gets moved to first base, you have to entirely change how you're talking about them from a fantasy standpoint. If they're a catcher, then they have a much lower offensive ceiling to be a really good fantasy catcher than if they're a first. Same thing goes when they were talking about moving Colt Keith from second to first base. Like, that changes how I'm approaching Colt Keith in terms of fantasy, if I'm looking at him as somebody who's playing first base for me. And I talk about it with Samuel Basallo a lot, but he's like the only one who I've talked about where I'm like, yeah, he'd still be fine if he moves from catcher to first base. Like, it'll work out. Don't worry about it. But there is a difference in how you're talking about these players. If they're in a catcher bucket versus a first base bucket versus, an outfield bucket, there's just different ceilings and different you expect.
And to your point, Nick Kurtz or Jose Brasino, right? That's a pretty obvious decision right now, but that's what he has to be compared to, as opposed to Jose Brasino versus Samuel Basallo, which is a much closer conversation, at least in some of the data we've seen, not in the rankings, not in the actual performance. But I think he's closer to Basallo at catcher than he is Kurtz at first. I mean, what Kurtz is doing at first is one of the best prospect performances we've seen in a position to start a season. Like, Brasino can't catch that for a couple of years, I would say. And that's my own opinion, even though you may
underselling
disagree.
Basallo a little. Underselling Basallo.
I agree with what you're saying, though. I want to see more production. All right, we're seeing the production from Kurtz, even though a lot of it's happening in New Mexico, where the altitude's 40 billion feet in the air, and Reno and Las Vegas. But I agree with what you're saying, Trevor, is that you definitely have to reassess where they
Mhm.
are within your rankings based off the value they will give you per position. I wanted you to circle back before you drop some of the names on us. Jace Young was a guy that's been very polarizing over a couple of years. He's a guy that Doc really wanted to talk about today, starting off to having a great season. What are your thoughts on Young, and where does he fit in with this ever-changing Tigers lineup?
I mean, I guess somewhere on the infield, it's hard, right? It's the same thing with Justin Henry Malloy. I mean,
Yep.
they have some stuff at the plate that you like, particularly, their ability to control the zone. But where do they fit in on the field is going to be really hard to figure out. Especially now you have Gleyber Torres back, so now you're moving these puzzle pieces around, trying to fit everybody in because Torque is good, and I don't think they really expected that to happen this year. So there's just a lot going on. So with Jace Young, from a fantasy standpoint, he's a great OBP buy in my mind because I think he's going to walk a lot. I just don't know about the rest of it still. He's having a great start to the year. He has legitimate power. I mean, the power is there. He's also striking out close to 30% of the time. Again, we're talking early. I get that. But he's done that, and he's struck out quite a bit, if I'm not mistaken, in the past, or at least enough to say that he strikes out sometimes. He's not Jacob Wilson. So that's a weird thing to say. No one is.
No, but
You have Arias, you have Wilson,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you have everybody else in the world.
Yeah,
You have
the 139 strikeouts to 128 games in 2023. Yes, very different profile.
This is why you write out more than like 6 words as a note for when you're going to start talking about a player. Anyway, I love the OBP. I love the eye at the plate is what I'm saying. And there's some real power there. It's just, will he have a space to fit in and get enough time to show that? That's what I don't know. And I hope he does, because I do think there's something there. I don't think it's as high as I once thought it was, but there's something.
Man, I can't believe I got gaslit like that over Jace Young. What the heck is this? I'm sitting over here laughing to myself on mute. Doc really wanted to talk about Jace Young today.
Did you not?
No, I said Jackson Jobe, the other JJ.
No,
one
I
wants
did
to
not
talk.
hear that.
Man, Jace Young's mom doesn't want to talk about Jace Young.
Oh,
Like, he's born.
that hurts.
Actually, it's funny. It's funny though, because I do have a soft spot for him because I'm an OBP supremacist. I do like those kind of leagues that involve OBP. And I think he's great, but I think Trevor nailed everything. I just thought it was hilarious that I was like, that's Doc's guy.
I have him in almost every league.
Tigers then for having two JJs.
Almost every league I'm in.
You have him in almost every league?
Yeah, I do. I in almost every single dynasty, I have Jace Young. I went and bought
426 OBP right now. 362 in MLB last year as a rookie. It's like you might. I mean, he's sneaky. He's sneaky, and I think he could actually, because I like Josh. Seems like the injury stuff is not.
He's a walking ambulance call.
So if Jace stays healthy, I do think Jace is going to have the better career out of the two.
So Trevor, kind of getting back to what you were saying with Colt Keith and Torkelson, that's the last real Tigers question I have until you can drop a couple more names on us if you have them.
Mm-hmm.
You said it perfectly, I think. I think this was the football analogy here. I think this was draft a quarterback and then piss off Aaron Rodgers to go win 2 MVPs type of deal, where the Tigers basically said, hey, like, you're out. And, if you can find a way to prove to us that you deserve playing time, we'll give it to you. I don't think they, like you said, intended Torkelson to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Do you think Torkelson's breakout is real, right? We have not seen him perform in the colder months this well, this consistently, this early. Or do you think maybe it's just a hot streak? And then what do you see happening with Colt Keith and his value, since he seems to be the guy that's really struggling, first and foremost. And then secondly, they're not going to give Torkelson's at bats at first to Keith. From what I've seen from box scores in games, it's Torkelson at first.
Mm-hmm. I do. I mean, I'm buying Torkelson. I do believe that there is something different, and I don't know that it's the breakout that has, from him actually swinging and hitting the baseball. We know that he can hit the ball. We know he can hit the ball with power. I mean, he had 30 home runs one year. For me, Torkelson is a streaky player. I think he'll have these fantastic, months, weeks, whatever, and then I think he might fall into a crater. He may level out. I don't know, but I do believe there's the offensive ability there, and I don't think this is fake what we're seeing in terms of fantasy, dynasty, whatever. Because this is dynasty dingers, right? So we gotta talk dynasty about it. If you are rostering Spencer Torkelson, if you're looking to roster Spencer Torkelson, the one number I'm watching is his walk percentage because he's up at 11% right now. And if he gets back down to the, 8-9% he was at in the past few years, when the offense craters, if it does crater, then he loses a lot of value and he's almost unplayable. But if he can keep the walk rate at a good place, I think he becomes easier to hold on to if he does fall off. And I want to believe that this is real and he's going to be this amazing power bat. And I hope he is, because go Tigers. But I just, based on, what he's shown in the past, there's reason to be skeptical still that this is just a hot streak. But I love the walk rate. I do. I think that improvement is huge, especially in terms of how he's going to help you from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, and then the number of games I've seen, what concerns me is the approach seems very different. He's not hunting fastball at the beginning of the count like I used to see him.
Mhm.
He's really working counts into fastball counts. He's hitting off-speed pitches. The approach is just different, and I'm
Mhm.
always concerned when that happens because can you keep it? Like you said, can you keep it at 11% now? Can you keep the concentration on being a player that works counts to your advantage? If you can, I believe the breakout's real, but I've seen countless players change their approach for a month and then go right back into bad habits.
Mhm.
And that's really, I think it's a timing thing for Torkelson. We are just going to have to wait and see if it's real or not. What do you think about Keith?
Yeah, I'll be honest with Torkelson. I'm kind of like trying to figure out when the best time to sell is. But I also have Pete Alonso in that league. So there's,
Okay.
I'm kind of
Easier
just hoping for
decision.
value. Yeah. Anyway, for Colt Keith, talented, great hitter. Like I am still on the Colt Keith train. I'm not worried about it, but I guess I'll use the word worried. So maybe I am worried about it, but it does concern me that it seems like he's moved into this passive realm. If you just look at it at face value, his walk rate is much better than it has been. His strikeout rate is also up, and his swing percent's down like 10-ish%, just the amount of times he swings. And this is early on, small sample. I understand all that, but that is a really hard way to play baseball, is to be passive. And if patient versus passive is a whole conversation to have. Patience is good, passiveness is not great. Like the passiveness is why I am notoriously low on Emmanuel Rodriguez with the Twins. So it's just, can he break out of whatever it is that's making him passive? Because I never thought he was this way before. So I think there's something, whether it be mentally, whatever it is, I think there's something there that's making him, I don't want to say afraid to swing, but it's hindering his ability to swing at good pitches and pitches he should swing at sometimes. And he finds himself in these late counts where, yes, he may walk more. Emmanuel Rodriguez might walk 20% of the time, but he swings like twice a game. It just doesn't work when you do that.
And it's interesting you bring that up. I'm almost wondering if it's an organizational emphasis. Torkelson changing his approach, Keith changing his approach. Maybe there's a correlation there where, they've taken away a skill set from Cole Keith because, again, the pitching or the hitting coach and maybe the front office is saying, hey, we need this as an approach of emphasis. I don't know that, but it would be
I mean, they've
curious
said
to
that they
say.
want guys who can control the zone. One of the first
Mm,
trades that Scott Harris made was to go get Justin Henry Malloy, who is really good at controlling
yeah,
the zone. But again, that's different than just being passive and not swinging.
yeah.
Right. So maybe this is Colt Keith learning how to do that, but there's something there. And I just want to see some things come back.
Okay. No, that's really good information. And that kind of gives me a different perception of what Colt is going through, right? Maybe if he is learning,
Mhm.
this is just that roadblock of learning at the major league level to change who you've been, and what you saw as success coming into this profile. Doc, any thoughts on Torque or Colt Keith?
Kind of the same deal. I think it's been said. You guys pretty much nailed it. It's like I think the truth is somewhere in the middle here with Torque and also with Keith. I believe in him. I think he needs to tap into a bit more assertiveness at the plate.
Trevor, any more names within the Detroit organization that you maybe want to touch on?
Let's talk a little outside Detroit's organization. This has become the Tigers podcast. I'm vetoing this option.
Who do you want
I
to go
want
with,
to talk
Doc?
about
Give us a
anything else.
list. We have two segments.
I have other names I didn't get to earlier. I could throw a couple names out.
Let's do it.
Tigers, though, I was going to talk about Carson Rucker. Just throwing that out there. I won't go into details. It's been the Tigers podcast. Who likes the Tigers? So, one name I want to throw out that I just very recently am jumping on the bandwagon of, that it seems like everybody is at this point, is Ernesto Martinez Jr. with the Brewers. And the Baseball America put something out. He has good EV numbers. Specifically, I just saw a home run video where it looked like he contorted his body in the weirdest possible way, and he hit a home run still. Like, the pitch was way inside. He's a lefty, and he kind of like, I think he steps in the bucket, so he's open a little bit anyway, but he was almost like this and hit it out, and it was not hit softly. So he's hitting really well right now. He's in AAA. So it's almost like, is he going to force the Brewers' hand at some point? I don't know how he's hitting some of these with power, but he is, and that's very interesting to me.
Well, and he falls in the profile that Doc loves. This is an older kid that's been with Milwaukee for a number of years, has had the physical tools, hasn't been able to put it into the prospect stat sheet that we want to see. Spring training had a really nice season. He's been, for me as a big Brewer fan, an organizational depth piece up until this, when it's finally like, oh, we might have a major league first baseman that could be useful, or at worst, a rotational guy that can play.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like you bringing his name up first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been impressed very recently. This is like days in the making, so I have nothing else I could say about it, really. But how about Andres Valor, outfielder with the Marlins? He's in the lower levels. He is coming off of, he's in low A right now. He was DSL in the complex, both of where he was posting good batting averages, good steal numbers if you're into that kind of thing. Hitting 280 so far in his first 9 games. I'm interested. Like, I've seen swings. I like the swing. He hasn't played a whole lot in front of a camera, so there's not a whole lot for me to say, but it seems like he's able to get the barrel through the zone, or to different parts of the zone. I think there's probably a little more power there. Andres Valor is a guy that I am interested in.
It's interesting with that organization too, them spending money on some of the coaches and the lab teams. Like, they're really putting a lot of emphasis on development. They're one of the leaders now in bat speed gainers and training. I think especially some of these younger guys could benefit heavily from the investments that the organization is making, because clearly they have to. They're not going to spend, so you got to develop, and we haven't seen that in a long time now in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good under the radar name. Anybody else you have on the list for us?
I could just list guys off that are at the top of my head always. Jackson Wiggins is one with Chicago. He's just a big dude with big stuff and command issues. Luis Morejo with Cleveland he was 18, putting up good power numbers last year.
Do you believe the power is translatable to the higher levels? That's a big question I have with him.
Well, he plays for Cleveland, so probably not.
It's a fair answer. It's a fair answer.
I want to believe it. He's 18. That's hard to tell.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a good answer for you. I want to believe, like, I have him and I've held on to him. I decided to keep him over Jeremiah Estrada because I make poor decisions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Well, I make bad decisions.
But it's an interesting decision now, but maybe not in 3 or 4 years. Maybe not in 2 years.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll see if I even keep Morejo past this year. Right? I wound up trading for him. Traded somebody I wasn't going to keep, got him, and thought maybe I should just see what happens. Either way. And Michael Arroyo, I know that he's a known prospect. Here's the thing about Michael Arroyo is a lot of people have him in the back end of their top 100s. When I put together my top 600 for Fantrax, I think I had him at 32.
Oh, wow.
So I am ridiculously high on him just because when I watch him, I'm seeing a guy who understands how to lift the ball and when to lift the ball. I'm seeing a guy who gets his barrel to different parts of the zone. Like, I just think he's got a good package there where it may not be tremendous power all the time, but I think he's has the ability to hit consistently. I think he's off to a slow start this year, so don't quote me exactly, but I think he has the ability to hit consistently, and I think it's going to play really well as he progresses.
Doc, what do you think about a couple of those guys?
Bro, I'm going to completely ignore all of them because I have a dilemma and I need everyone's opinion.
I love this. What do we got?
That was a great list, dude. That's the deep dynasty stash portion of the show. This is the last couple minutes, and I genuinely I love that. Marejo has been discussed here before. It's a fun name. I want to talk. I'm not sure if y'all have seen this because I was about to sell low or like before it. I was about to sell Cody Bellinger because I'm getting a little nervous. I'm like, bro, these guys in New York with a torpedo bat. I know he had food poisoning, but he's starting off slow, right? I look at his Savant page. He's got a 92 roundup, 92 mile per hour exit velo, average exit velo, and a 93rd percentile hard hit rate. He hasn't had anywhere close to those numbers since 2019 MVP season. It's like I'm very confused of what's happening here because I think part of his maybe this is it. And I'm trying to unconfuse the situation, but I know he had been shortening his swing and not trying to go for the fences in the last year or so, trying to, especially on 2-strike counts, trying to just be a good hitter. I'm wondering if he's maybe bought his own Kool-Aid on. Oh, maybe I'll be like a 40 bomb hitter again in New York, in New York Yankee Stadium. But that's insane to me. Like even then, it's like that's he hasn't done that since 2019. But everything else is bad. What do y'all think about Cody Bellinger?
I will just say I'm very cautious with average exit velocity in the beginning of the season. I just don't believe the data currently. I mean, Bryce Terang, I have to pull him up, but he's in like 91 or 92 right now. Jumps can happen. Return to performance can happen. Cody Bellinger has a bat speed of 70.7 on average, which is 33rd percentile. That to me is interesting with the correlation to exit velocity. So I personally would sell him if you can for a good price. I might wait for him to have a hot week so that you could really sell him for some value. That'd be my take.
I last I checked, Tommy Edman was tied for the MLB home run lead, which is not to say that Tommy Edman isn't one of the greatest power hitters of our generation. Oh, I'm sorry. Tyler Soderstrom sits alone atop that chart now. But
did he hit one tonight?
Yeah, he's up to 7 now. So now you have Jazz Chisholm, Tommy Edman, Wilmer Flores, Aaron Judge, Kyle Schwarber, Fernando Tatis, Mike Trout, James Wood, all with 6. And not that Tommy Edman isn't one of the greatest power hitters of our generation, but I think his career high is 12 in a season. So I think early season numbers aren't reliable, as was said before me.
No, I think you guys just don't get it that Belly's going to MVP again.
Listen, don't trade him. I hope you're right. Like if Cody Bellinger is the weak point of this lineup this year, New York's going to be great, right?
What about Paul Goldschmidt?
I was just going to say, if he's worse than Paul Goldschmidt, what a heck of an offseason New York had. But I think it's too early to know.
Yeah, I mean, friggin' Goldie looks. I've watched
nice.
a bunch of his at bats like this season, and I don't know, man. He's hitting the ball hard. He is. He just looks like he's waiting for his pitches, and even when he's getting out, it's like nice outs. So I don't know why I randomly decided to talk about the New York. I'm literally watching them. Maybe that's it. I'm watching the Yankees-Royals game, but I decided to hijack our last few minutes of the show to talk about really old or played out names versus these 18-year-olds. But man,
it's okay.
Trevor,
I was just going to say, we didn't get to segment 2 or segment 3. I did warn Trevor that this may happen, but I actually only warned him that segment 3 may not happen. This is old fashioned for us where we didn't get to 2 or 3 on the day.
That's a sign it's a good episode, by the way, or a really bad episode, but I think it was good.
If I'm here, it was mid, I think.
Give yourself more credit. Trevor, we will kind of do our sign off here. I want you to go ahead and just tell everybody one more time, where they can find you, whether it's X or Blue Sky, and then what programs, content to follow you with.
Yeah, you can find me at Hooth Trevor on X. On Blue Sky, I'm Trevor Hooth. I'm very rarely active on both because I'm busy doing homework. Hopefully that will change at some point. So feel free to give me a follow and see what happens. I am doing podcasts. It seems like constantly. I have a podcast that I host with my friend Nate Kosher through Pitcher List called Coffee Talk, where we talk about the cup of coffee guys in redraft leagues. That drops on Tuesdays. And then I also do the First Pitch podcast, which you can find every morning. I do those on weekends, though. So on Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, you can find those. And other than that, yeah, I'm just hanging out a lot in Discords and talking baseball and trying not to steer people in the wrong direction. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, Trevor, it was great having you on. So we appreciate that. And anytime you want to come back, we would love to have you. So thank you so much. Doc, send us off.
I'm your Huckleberry.
We'll catch you guys next week.